Horse, here we go. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for everyone's responses for the first episode with Shihan Bill Polly. I've got a real special guest here, a good friend, we could say a foe at certain times. We've competed against each other, but I highly rate this sensei. This is Sensei Graeme Rose from Central Coast. Sensei Graeme Rose, how are you?
Awesome. I'm excited, Pat. Yeah, great to see you. Great to have a chat.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks so much for taking the offer. And again, I've told a lot of people that it is the Kyokushin Shuffle. Yes, some of the guests will be Kyokushin, but I think more so a lot of the people I'm talking to love martial arts, and you're definitely one person that we've had some nice lengthy chats at time. And yeah, we look forward to sharing a little bit more in this next hour or so. So how's the Central Coast going? How are you going? And I guess give some of the guys a bit of a heads up on your Kyokushin background, just on its merit of before you even came to Australia.
Yeah, well, that's a really big half of the story because, I was very lucky the way I sort of fell into Kyokushin. My grandmother lived next door to, just a few doors down from John Jarvis in Newtown in Wellington, New Zealand.
Wow, yeah.
And I started training in that school on a Saturday, and it was like nothing I'd ever seen before. And when I look back now, the dojo was like it was something out of Okinawa. It was a really special building.
Yeah.
And then, John Jarvis was one of those guys that he was a legend of Kyokushin back in the 60s. And but at that time, his school wasn't actually Kyokushin; it was called Renbuden. He had actually broken away from Kyokushin and gone with Goju-Ryu.
That's an early time to break off from Kyokushin, like mid-60s, late 60s. Yeah.
It was a little bit later than that. It was just after the first world tournament.
Okay.
But that's a whole story.
And were you that lad that walked into the dojo and was like, hold on a minute, push-ups, bare knuckles, shins on the mucky, what attracted you to it?
Just the physical benefits,
Okay.
Within weeks, I was doing things that I didn't think I could do, So I didn't have any inhibition about push-ups on your knuckles and training on the wooden floors. It just everybody was doing it, and I was just going along for the ride. I thought, this is great. I love the shouting, love the sweat.
Yeah. That's true.
It just got me excited. Yeah, and then we found a dojo a little bit closer to home because my grandmother moved from that building, and we found a Kyokushin school, Shihan Bob Mccullum, and that was closer to home.
Ooh.
And and then it was the same thing. It was just really exciting to be in the dojo. Yeah, the seniors were really enthusiastic, really exciting people.
What was the term, I guess, that when you were there until the bit where you I guess moved on from there in respect of you're born and bred in NZ, but walk us through that phase there as well in how that went.
So I grew up in New Zealand, found Kyokushin when I was about 7 years old, 7 or 8. Started training Shihan Bob Mccullum, and he just became a mentor to me. Really strong sort of father figure, as did all the black belts that were there. I didn't leave New Zealand until I was 19. I'd done my Shodan. I was the youngest at the time. I was 14 when I did my Shodan grading.
Oh, really?
That was a bit of a big deal in New Zealand at the time.
Yeah, no doubt. So were you training 3-4 times a week or something insane like that? Or?
As much as I could. It was. I could train 4 times a week, Monday to Thursday, and then a Saturday. There'd be a Saturday class. I trained with the seniors when I could. I couldn't get enough. It was a little bit crazy. Looking back, it was a little bit crazy. I probably I could have trained a bit smarter in those days, and my body might have thanked me a little bit more later. But I got so much out of it at a young age. I really was really lucky to have that opportunity and be around the people, the motivating, the mentors around me were just first class all the time. Really good people.
And what made you come to Oz at that early age as well?
It was a bit of a family sort of separation, and actually in 1988, my parents had sort of moved apart.
Sure.
And I went to Japan to train for a month with my Shihan, train with Sosai.
Wow.
In the Honbu, December of '88. see what all the fuss was about.
Let us get into this now. Here we go. So 1988, Sensei Rose, well, you're a senpai at the time, and you're off to Japan with who was he? Shihan Bob Mccullum, or was
he was fourth dan? He was fourth dan at that time.
Just fringe of that, eh? And okay, give us that perspective of that time, if you can flash back to then. I'm sure you can.
Oh, it was gold. Yeah, it really was. It was a golden time for me. A really important chapter in my karate life.
Yeah.
So for the age of, I was 17, spent the year sort of trying to raise money and train hard to be prepared for Japan, because Shihan Bob kept on saying, you got to train hard. You're going to be training twice a day at Honbu.
Wow.
You got to train as hard as you can to try and keep up. And eventually we got there. Touchdown in Japan, 17-year-old, bright-eyed, really excited. Friend Matthew Cameron, he was 15. He was just as tall as me at the time.
Yeah.
And we were good mates. And
good.
the two of us, we trained Ichibu and Sanbu, the morning and evening session at Honbu.
Who was your instructor there? Do you remember? I've spoken to you about this in the past a little bit, but a bit more detail now. So you're a fascinating lad in understanding and remembering names as well as me. So who were some of the guys there that were floating around?
Yeah, well, Matsui wasn't actually in the dojo at that time. Like, he'd won the world tournament the year before.
In 87,
He was still teaching, but didn't see a lot of them. It was mainly the Uchideshi that took the classes. So there was Mina. Mina was about 5'4", and
wow.
And he worked hard, but he wasn't a gifted instructor at all. But he was really good. He was really good to myself and Matt. And then Achida, he was a big tall guy, Uchidesh, and he was a really good guy too. He was in the dormitory when Shihan Judd went through.
Sure.
He was one of Shihan Judd's sort of seniors at the time.
And how was the translation? How was your translation? I mean, you know how to do Jordanuke and Seikans and so forth, but how'd you go?
Well, nothing wrong with the karate Japanese. I lapped that up. I loved it. And Shihan Bob's wife, Michiko, she gave us a bit of insight into some key phrases to use outside of the dojo.
Very cool.
Yeah, we didn't have any trouble with the Japanese in the dojo. It was, I was just loving it. I couldn't get enough.
And how was the moment when Sosai walked past you and said, "Hey, Rosie, what's going on? How's it going, mate?"
Well, Shihan Bob had been traveling every year, and taking students. And
cool.
So every year, these brown belts and black belts would come back from Japan, and there'd be different people. You could just feel the energy coming out of them.
Right.
So that was always inspiring. I think Shihan Bob had been going since about 84.
Oh, wow.
So 85, 86.
So he would have been good friends with Sosai. He would have been good friends, huh?
Well, Shihan Bob was the New Zealand branch chief.
Mm-hmm.
And, and they got along famously. Bob's son, he call him. And they normally Sosai would make time to take us out to dinner. Like, take Bob out to dinner with students, but he didn't have time when I was there. But I got to meet him in his office.
Oh, the office. Wow, yeah. Everyone's spoken about that.
Yeah, well, he shook my hand and called me a good boy, and that was
done.
I'll take the grave with me. I was pretty happy with that. That was worth the effort.
The God hand shook your hand. Done. Yeah. That's unreal.
But the fighting in Honbu was awesome, and the Uchideshi, like Sosai was always interacting with Uchidesh, and I. Maybe it was a little bit of my ego, but I felt like he'd heard some feedback from the dojo, and
sure,
he was justified in calling me a good boy, and it just motivated me to be better again. Keep doing what I'm doing.
That's exciting. Cool. Yeah, and I mean more for Shihan Bob as well. Taking young lads like yourself down there and stepping up, and going to that next level.
Yeah. Well, I came back, and I just felt like I was a step ahead of everybody.
Yeah. So
how long
were you there? How long were you there in the end? Sorry.
Just 1 month.
Just a month. Okay, so 4 weeks. Or I guess visas and so forth would have just been, get in, get out, huh?
Yeah. Well, that was sort of the time frame. That was the time he had off work, and that's what we saved up for.
Yeah.
It was, we had a bit of a schedule. Bob had a plan.
Nice.
We put a certain amount of money here and there, and then we trained, and we did the winter camp. Got to train under the waterfall. And
Mitsumin. Did you go to Mount Mitsumin?
Yeah.
Awesome, man. It's a special place, isn't it?
Power Karate were doing a film shoot while they were there, a bit of a Tamasha Warrior special.
Yeah.
So, Kuwajima was the current All Japan champ. He was breaking baseball bats. And Shishinoi was, going through Bessa blocks or, carving them up.
Yeah.
It was really good fun.
So you come back to NZ. You're a different bloke. You're 1 month in, and now you're like, bring it on, hey?
Yeah. Well, I remember the first night in the dojo coming back, and Shihan Bob sort of like just wanted to unleash me on the dojo. Like, come Kumite time, I wasn't going to take a backward step from anybody. I was 70 kilos, but I was possessed with Honbu spirit.
What a good word that is. Yeah, possessed. That would be the feeling, eh?
It was. Yeah, you just I remember Sosai talking. Shihan Bob talking about Midori Shihan.
Yeah.
And he was saying that Sosai had already decided. This is the guy that's he's the one to watch. He's the one to watch for the '91 World Tournament.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he was right.
He sure was.
Yeah. Sosai sort of picked it a little while. You could see the potential in him. You could see the spirit in him. Yeah. What a legend he's become.
Yeah. And I guess from there, so you went back to NZ. So you would have been back in NZ with Shihan Bob, and then I guess bits and pieces then made you, with your career as well. How did you manage to slide such a massive part of 1 month in Japan under Sosai at Honbu, and then you're back into the fold of what's going on in NZ/Oz?
Yeah, it was a bit challenging, really. I got a little bit 17-year-old sort of loving his karate, like that was my passion. But there was no sort of vision of a future of making money from being a karate instructor. It's just pure amateur Budo.
That's right.
Passion, loving it, but you still got to get a real job and make a living somewhere. I got a little bit lost there for a while.
Yeah.
And, I came back to Australia. Well, I came to Australia, and went and trained with Shihan Cameron Quinn a couple of times in Brisbane.
Nice.
And then that sort of blew me away. I thought, wow, he's really delivering here.
Yeah. Was that about early 90s? Sensei, was that about early?
It was, yeah. It was sort of the summer of, it was 1990.
Okay.
Yeah. Sort of, I came to Australia in October of 90, and then, over that Christmas time, I trained a couple of times. And it was one of those sliding door moments when I think about it now. But I think Gary and Dom and Walter were just about to kick off.
Yeah, the world.
With Shihan Cameron then.
Yep.
And I made a bit of a plunge and joined the Australian Navy, and that took me out of the Kyokushin loop for a good sort of 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
And then I got the cross paths with Gary and Wally and Dom.
Yeah.
And sometimes I used to think about it. What if I just stayed at Shihan Cameron's dojo?
Wow.
Maybe I could have taken that path.
But, I raised that with we had the camp during the week, and we were just discussing the full-time concept, and Gary was Sensei Gary O'Neill and Sensei Wally Shinobu was full-time, and what it took, the sacrifice in doing that, and here you are going into the Navy and career-wise, changing your world upside down. I mean, what a transition that would have been as well, hey?
Yeah, it was. The Kyokushin never left me. I was always had that hunger to sort of reconnect with it. And and I was able to, I was a year and a half down in Melbourne, Navy confinement. There wasn't much room to do too much else. I think I got into Melbourne once or twice to train with Shihan George.
Okay.
Went to Shihan Eddie's dojo one night, but I only got leave like on a Friday night. It was a little bit difficult to get to training.
Of course.
But, in 92, I got posted to Sydney, and Shihan Bob had given me a keyring with Shihan Jimmy's phone number on the back.
Really?
And, and so I rang that phone number, walked into Shihan Jimmy's dojo, and like middle of 1992.
Yeah. And
just rekindled that passion again. The passion. The way Shihan Jimmy was running a class, it was like nothing I'd seen before. Yeah, it was. He was only about 38, and he was well and truly leading from the front, by example.
What were some of those things? Share with us. I mean, I've got Shihan Jimmy on my to-do list as well soon, and I spent the weekend with him, and he's been an integral part of your journey as well. What were some of those things that you admired, I guess, at that time, and still remember?
Yeah, well, it was really interesting to go from Shihan Bob, who was such a he was so close to Sosai.
Yeah.
And the discipline side of Honbu, that through the 80s. But Shihan Bob was in his 50s.
Right.
He was in his 60s when we went to Japan. So he wasn't able to give you that example. He couldn't execute a Jodan Meigeri and explain. He couldn't demonstrate the details. I mean, he had the passion. There was no doubt about that. And he gave me the discipline.
Yep.
And the spirit. But Shihan Jimmy was physically, he embodied Kyokushin physically at that time, as well as everything else. I mean, Shihan Jim's definitely a conversation you got to have.
Yeah,
But his physicality, his ability, and his demonstration of everything was just another level.
Second to none, huh?
Yeah, inspiring to be around. Yeah.
Yeah, he had that. He'd come off a 50-man Kumite, one of the first ever to do that. He's had the world tournament experience, and then he's just a 38-year-old slash, just off the fringe of Sydney, and he was talking to me about how he used to work at the cross, the famous King's Cross of Sydney, which was just brutal time, brutal as in clubs and pubs and that type of environment streetwise. So he was no BS, eh?
Yeah, he was the real deal, absolutely. And he might have to do an uncensored talk with Shihan Jimmy as well as a.
We're all right. We're here for a chat. I want people to understand how people talk and how they how it comes out, and I swear a little bit, but not too much, obviously. But no, that's the nature of the beast, man. That's the nature of the beast. Yeah.
Well, probably one of the biggest thing I got out of Shihan Jimmy, and I still get from him now, is his mentorship.
Yeah.
A bit like yourself and Shihan Billy.
Yeah.
Shihan Jim's amazing. He'll just ring you up out of the blue to see how you're going.
Nice.
And he's always there, and whatever's going on in your life, similar to what Shihan Bill shares with yourself.
Yeah, it was.
The ups and downs, the good, the bad.
It was.
And they're just out of nowhere, just because you can.
Yeah. So you get your hands dirty there and at Shihan Jimmy's dojo, and there's no slouches walking through that door, under his eyes. And then I guess you give us a bit of an idea of when these so-called Australian titles just start to pop up under Sensei Graeme Rose, and I'll reveal a bit more later when I come in the mix.
Yeah, well, I did compete way back in New Zealand back in the late 80s.
Yep.
And I actually represented New Zealand in a Trans-Tasman Test match in '89 and fought Mark Tyson.
Oh, wow. Yep.
Yeah, and that was a real wake-up. Yeah, that was he showed me what a 25-year-old experienced lightweight can do to an 18-year-old newbie.
But that's cool.
Yeah, so that was awesome. Yeah. And then, when I got to Australia, 92, I started training with Shihan Jim, but I was still in the Navy.
Yeah.
But Shihan Jim loved his tournaments. There's always an opportunity to compete in a state or a regional. Or I didn't get to compete in the nationals until 97 when I got out of the Navy.
Okay.
And in 97 at Sydney Town Hall, Shihan Jimmy put on an amazing show. He puts on great tournaments.
Yep.
He had Kancho Matsui there. And I got to fight in that one, dreaming of a place, but hadn't really done the work at that stage.
Okay.
Lost a decision to Kancho, who he deserved the win. Wasn't in it.
Was he a guest? Was he an Australian fighter? Oh, no, he would have been a guest.
Visiting Japanese fighter.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he had fought the year before, I think, down in Melbourne.
Okay.
And lost to Robin Hammond, who was one of my students that went on to bigger and better things, throughout the 90s.
Gotcha.
But I was always dreaming of a national title. That was a big deal in New Zealand, and that's what I wanted in Australia.
Yeah.
It's a long road, you got to you got to fall over a lot of times and get up, one more time, sort of thing. 98, I put all my eggs in one basket to really push for be the best I could be. And
how'd you get to there?
Yeah, so when I left the Navy in 97, I left in April of 97, and I thought I can get by for about 6 months and just train, I reckon, without doing too much work. So I had a crack at being full-time training with Shihan Jimmy as best I could, and competing as much as I could. And one of the interesting things about that, we went to New Zealand, fought in New Zealand. I was winning some fights, but I wasn't quite getting past third place. I was sort of getting a couple of thirds. My body was getting a bit bashed up. I was getting a bit, feeling a bit, wondering what had happened to the body that I had when I was 18, 19. I could do anything. The knuckles were hard, the shins were hard. But a little bit of time in the Navy had sort of softened me up a bit. But I was competing as much as I could. Shihan Jim was always finding a tournament for us. 97 was a big year. I placed third in New Zealand. Lost to Michael Cope. He was a Sato, really good Sato fighter. Lost to Kancho in the Australian Nationals. Beat Michael Vasquez in the third place fighter.
So you're nearly there. Yeah. Oh, geez.
And Sensei Wally also put on the first PNG Open tournament. And we had 35 fighters, open weight. And I placed third in that tournament, and that was huge.
Awesome.
Yeah, that was really exciting. And so I had 3 third places that year.
So you kicked it off. There was a bit of a rush going through you there, and then the storm, I guess, the Sensei Graeme Rose storm started to take effect in Oz, because I started in late 2000 as a fresh white belt, and then started looking at some of the tournaments, obviously attending, and then you were there. You were up and about, starting to knock out people and just starting to take control. So you would have felt something of, at that stage, yeah?
Yeah. It's a wonderful journey. I'm really grateful to have a little bit of video footage of those early tournaments and just remind myself of, the style of fighting and the mentality that I used to bring on the mat, the attitude, because there's so much goes into winning a title. Those early tournaments where I had such high expectation and just couldn't deliver, the emotional, devastation of that.
Yeah.
And just more effort, and making decisions and making commitments to how am I going to get better.
Yeah.
In 99, there was an open weight tournament in Melbourne, and there was a selection for the world tournament, the 7th world tournament.
Okay.
And I fought Sergei Urshov. He was a Russian.
Yeah.
That Ralph Bird had brought out.
Yeah.
And and we went 2 extensions, and he was probably a little bit fitter, and maybe had more skills, I think. But I think I hit him with a Magiri at one point.
Okay.
And then I stood up nice and strong at the end of it when I felt like I was about to collapse.
Right. Yeah.
And I got a couple of flags. I think I got 3 flags.
We'll take it.
Yeah, I took it. Yeah, but it took so much out of me that the next round I fought Masato Akita, who I knew nothing about.
Yeah, right.
And I found out later that he placed, I think, top 16 or top 32 in the 6th World Tournament in '95.
Yep.
So that was a step up that I didn't see coming.
Here's another thing too, getting those international fighters coming into these tournaments, and I mean, it's your Australian title. You're trying to become the Australian champion, and we experienced it at your later end of the journey when I was coming through. But the Iranian fighters that we were up against, and I was like, tough as hell. But that would have been awesome too. The experience of getting the Japanese, to be on our soil, and you having a good hard crack as well.
Yeah, that was great. That year in '99, I'd sort of set myself, I'd set myself to go to Japan. I just had to get to Japan, and I felt that I was a legit chance to get in the team.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I think the tournament was sort of early to mid-year because the World Tournament was at the end of the year. 1st of August, I touched down in Japan again to train and prepare. And I was sort of flying blind, really. I didn't really know where I was going to be in Japan and like specifically what dojo I was going to train at. I just knew I had to get there.
Oh, okay.
And I was lucky. I had some friends, a Kiwi guy named Paul Clare, who really helped me out. And then Kevin Baker, one of the Brisbane guys, he put me up in his flat in Kumite area for a month, just while I sort of got on my feet.
Yeah.
That experience was that was something else.
Walk us through that. I've heard a bit of it. I'm being fortunate to chat to you about that, but I guess share a little bit of that because that's a nice milestone as well.
It was awesome. Yeah. So Paul Clare was training in Kokubunji Dojo with Oguchi Shihan, and he was there mainly because Naoki Ichimura, the guy that Paul had fought 2 rounds with, or 2 extensions with at the 6th World Tournament. Yeah, they'd competed, so it's kind of like a bit of a thing. You get beaten by a fighter, you go and train with them.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
That's what Paul was doing. He was training with Ichimura, and there was some other really good fighters there, Kawamoto. And then Kevin Baker was training in Hiroshige Shihan's dojo, which was
wow.
That's where Kazumi.
Yeah, name the names out of that dojo. Name the names there. That was what an insane stable that had, hey.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was late 90s. I mean, it was 99 when I was there. So Tsukamoto and Yamaki and Midori had moved on. Right. But Kazumi was number 1. Iwasaki was his senpai. But Iwasaki, Kazumi, Takaku, and Shida, all heavyweights. 4 of the best in Japan at the time. Yeah. And Kevin Baker had been training there for quite a while.
Okay.
Yeah, cool. And he introduced me to Hiroshige Shihan.
Oh, how good's that?
That was awesome. He gave me some good advice that I didn't take on. He said, "Learn Japanese."
Yeah, that's fair enough. Hey, yeah,
he's right. Yeah, I think he's right. I just haven't taken that challenge on.
I have that as my. Someone says, "Oh, what's one thing you want to do?" And I'm like, seriously, it's to, be proficient and fluent in it. I mean, we teach it, we talk it. It's consistent in our teachings, but I used the story when we went to Japan one time, and I said to the guys, I was a bit of a rookie back in the day, and Hanchi said, "Can you get?" I said, "Would you like anything?" And Hanchi's like, "Yeah, get me a coffee and a donut." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, cool, coffee and a donut. Shit, okay, I'll try." And he goes, "You can speak Japanese. Go and order it." And I'm like, I don't know. But the long story short, I was embarrassed and a bit nervous and tried to get Hanchi a coffee and a donut. And he walks up and he goes, "No, you don't know how to do it. Look, come up here." And he goes, "1 coffee or 1 croissant." And then he just goes, "Just put a no at the end of everything." And we were like, hitched up. But we still, a lot of us travel over there and we're still trying to figure it out.
Yeah. You got to do it though. You got to get to Japan at some point.
Oh, yeah.
I think, I mean, the 2 visits for me were quite different. The first visit, Honbu, training morning and night. Everything was very formal. Yeah. There was always that. There's always a sense of, Sosai might be watching, or you're in the Honbu, so you just give 100%. There's no other option, sort of thing.
Of course.
But the second time round, training with Kazumi and those guys, being allowed to train with them was just amazing. They knew nothing about me, but they let me in, and you didn't have to wear a gi. Like it was Saturday, it was fighter training.
Yeah.
The Tuesday, Thursday that I trained at Oguchi Shihan's dojo, it was fighters training. It's just shorts and t-shirt. Some of my memories there was this kid that kept on just hitting me with the Brazilian Moashigeri.
Yeah.
And, he just kept on getting me with it. And I asked Paul Clare about it and Kevin Baker about it. What do you do? Just got to smash him. All right, I'll try that. It's like Shihan Jimmy sort of advice. Just got to smash him.
Yeah.
So I started to just rough him up a little bit.
Okay.
And he sort of gave me a bit of a puzzled look, and I thought, maybe that's not the right thing to do. Maybe. But I had just a lot of fun. Yeah, I had a lot of fun. Yeah.
And so
they look after you. You don't have to be wearing a gi
yeah,
to get that respect. Your respect is in the way you hold yourself and the way you interact, the way you spar, and that attitude. You're humble. You're there to learn. You're not being arrogant about anything. The big thing for me was to go back and be a student. Before I went back to Japan that second time, I was a Nidan. I was taking a lot of classes at Shihan Jimmy's dojo, and there was a lot going on. There's a lot of just life going on.
Yes.
And then that opportunity to go and train, where training's number one, all of a sudden.
Yeah.
That really opened my eyes again. It's what I wanted. It's what I needed. And
right.
It just put me into another understanding of how to fight Kyokushin,
and from that. So how long were you there for at that time? Just training?
5 months. Yeah,
5 months. Okay. Yeah. Well, there we go. Yeah. Right. So that's live and breathe now, isn't it? That's day by day.
But the interesting was, I probably wasn't training as much as I was the first time. I was training smarter. Yeah. So I was doing my own training outside of the dojo, and then the Saturday class, I think it was sort of like 10 o'clock to 1 o'clock sort of time frame, sort of 2-3 hours. And then the Tuesday, Thursday, it was a couple of hours in the evening. But it was the intensity that we trained at.
I was just about to ask you, what was a key ingredient that you took out of that 5 months? And I think you kind of answered it. That intensity, huh?
Intensity, but also detail. Attention to detail. really, really trying to absorb what's going on, because what I've been doing before wasn't working. The effort I was putting into my training was there, but I don't think I was focusing enough on the details. And that's what I like to try and pass on to students from my experience. Is it is the simple things that you got to do well. You've really got to get those things right before you can think about the other things. It's cliche, but it's from what I've seen, it's true.
So your angle there, though, and interpreting a bit out of that's from a Kumite angle, or are you talking from Irogeko? Like, are you talking like your basics have to be Kumite?
Yeah. It's Kumite.
Yeah.
So, that second time in Japan, I trained for 5 months. I wore my gi 3 times. Once for a grading, once to fight in the world tournament, and the third time was just training on Honbu, just because I had to train on Honbu just one more time. Just for old time's sake, and that was the only time I did basics, was in Honbu.
Right.
Everything else was all about fighting.
And how'd you go in the worlds? So you had your 5 months. Not to rehash, mate, but you know how it is.
Well, I felt a little bit hard done by, to be honest. But I wasn't good enough. Yeah, the fight before mine had gone 2 extensions, and had been given a draw, and then they'd gone to the scales, and then my fight was next, and I went 2 extensions, and there was 2 flags, 2 red, 2 white, and the Russian guy I was fighting was about 90, just over 90 kilos.
Okay.
And I was about 78 kilos, ringing wet. I'd lost weight over there.
Yeah.
And I was just sweating on going to those scales. If I'd gone to the scales, I had 12 kilos lighter than them, and I would have advanced the second round.
Yeah.
Shihan Corrigal called it the way he saw it.
Corrigal, come on.
It was really exciting. And it only made me hungrier.
Of course.
It was after. It was 2000 when I started to win some things.
Okay.
I came home and things were different again.
Well, when you came home, there you go. What a nice way of putting it. You came home and you're pissed. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, you're motivated. I'll take it as motivated.
Very good. Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. Actually, before I came home, I remember going back to the dojo, Gucci Shihan's dojo, and I got a bit of insight into what it meant to him as well, because he was pissed. Yeah.
Share that with us.
Well, his English was as good as my Japanese, so we weren't able to have much of a conversation, but we got the gist of each other's meaning. And he became like a father figure for me in Japan. he was amazing. Yeah, just really looked after myself and poor Claire especially. They've got quite a long relationship. But he used to look after us. He'd take us out for a Korean barbecue after Thursday fighting class, and he spoiled us. He really looked after us. And then, going back to the dojo after that world tournament, he really understood the opportunities come and go.
Okay.
And he just, he was disappointed, because that fighter was there for me to take, and I couldn't take him.
Yeah, right.
And that opportunity's gone. That's 4 years until you get another chance. So, it's really, Kyokushin's a special thing to the Japanese.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, it's special for all of us, but the Japanese, their population and the pinnacle of the competition, they understand what it takes to get there and how lucky you are to get that opportunity.
Right. Yep.
It came and went.
There you go. And then, so I guess you're bringing back, though, a lot of learning experience, hey? And geez, did a couple of us get on the end of them when you came back, Sensei? It was, you were on a mission. There's no doubt about it. It was very impressive watching from a white to blue to green type level. And then I got through my intermediate phase and then started to figure out, once Shihan Bill said, once you get to brown, you're up against Sensei, Senpai Phil Jacobson, Senpai Graeme Rose, and I'm like, oh shit. I was like, okay, yep, us. And then, you were on a mission though, weren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And I had some really good support around me. I mean, Shihan Jimmy always, you can't measure the sacrifice that he puts into fighters.
Okay.
Because it's a real passion of his.
Yes.
And at that time, I mean, he's got a lot of energy now, but he, believe it or not, he had more energy then.
Yeah.
And, Clay Mosen was another guy in the dojo that was, he was a personal trainer, and he took a few of us under his wing, and started to, he opened my eyes to just training a bit smarter, training your energy systems. And I was the perfect candidate. I was just hungry for learning, and that really, he started to make more of an athlete
right
out of us.
Yeah.
So we had the aerobic base, we had the lactate threshold, big on lactate threshold training, and we had the explosive. We had to have that strength base, and manage your weight.
Can I tap into that lactic acid, type of format back then, meaning, not talking.
Yeah.
But what were some of those things you could share, in respect of, the simplicity, or just even the sets that you were doing? Was it the running on sand? Like, what was it?
Yeah, the sand dunes was part of it. Shihan Jimmy used to take us down to Cornell and do the sand dunes. And but the whole thing with lactate threshold training is intensity. If it means nothing if you're not trying to break a record every time you do something. Yeah, so you've really got to be.
Well, Shihan Takuma was just saying in the camp, we were talking about stamina and just sharing a little bit of detail. And I know you love a good camp, and I'll talk to you a bit more about the ones that you've attended as well. I bet you a lot of people want to hear a bit of that. But long story short, the question came out about stamina. Stamina, lactic stamina, and it was a question on its merit of, what's a drill or what's an exercise, and we were trying to keep the translation as clean as we could. Long story short, he just started showing that, do the sets on the big bag, for example, and he's like, leave nothing in the tank. And we're like, right, also, we do that. And then I was like, no, I think he's saying,
no.
I think he's saying nothing in the tank.
Yeah.
And he was saying, and he showed us, and he did his pop, 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 pop. And then he imitated, you fall to the ground. Once you're done, then your stamina's done for the night. And he said, you should be holding your guts, in pain, and you should be like absolutely spent. And we took that on board, and the dojo, my dojo's got a nice Christmas present coming up. So I think that's where you're heading with the intensity.
Absolutely. It comes back to just the word Kyokushin, the ultimate truth. And you've got to tap into that yourself. You've got to have faith in your instructor and your environment that you can totally expend all your energy and fall to the floor, and it's a safe environment. Nobody's going to ridicule you or criticize you for, oh, you could have done more. No. You were honest in your effort. And that's what the Japanese, I think, respected more than anything when I got to train with them.
Okay.
I remember one of the first big Mitt sessions we did with Gucci Shihan, and we finished the class with 7 minutes, 40 seconds on, 20 seconds off on the big Mitt.
Us.
And you just had to expend everything. So you go flat chat for 40 seconds.
Us.
You stand there for a little while, sort of suck it in. You go again. As you get to the fourth, the fifth, the sixth round, as soon as you stop moving, it was like this tunnel vision just sort of came in. And it's like, oh, I'm going to pass out in a second. And then the timer starts, and you go again. It's like, I can see again, and I'm going again.
Right.
So that was probably the beginning of being exposed to a bit of lactate training before I knew what I was doing. And then, back in Australia, I definitely started to understand it more with Clay Mosen's help.
Okay.
And, you got to put yourself in a position where you're doing a technique that's achievable, your technique's good, and you just empty the tank, and don't have any fear about falling over. You just got to do it and get up and do it again.
Well, I think I yelled out after Shihan Takuma did it. I said, I think there's going to be about 10,000, 20,000 Kyokushin practitioners once they hear that story. And everyone out there, let's give it a shot. Let's see what level. And I tell my students as well, I'm like, what is your capacity? What is your level? Don't, that's why we're here. That's why we have the closed doors. We're allowed to do that here. And like you just said, you said it perfectly. You're not going to be looked frowned upon or in any way. We're here to see the ultimate truth. We're here to test ourselves. Have a crack, get out of your comfort zone, and go. And I was talking to Shihan Bill about the shinai. How the shinai, all of a sudden, you start getting hit, and you go, "Oh shit, I better crack into it a bit more." And it's like, why did it take the shinai to get your ass moving, and get you going?
Yeah, there's different ways to get motivated, isn't there? And the shinai was a classic, back in the 80s. Shihan Bob brought the shinai back from Japan, and we all knew about it. Yeah, it was inspiring. Shihan Jimmy loved the shinai. Yeah.
So, in sharing a bit of, in where we got to become friends to an extent was I don't know if you remember, but I certainly do, because it was a big turning point in my career in fighting. In 2007, we were in Queensland, and I made the semi-final. And Sensei Graeme Rose is opposite me here, and everyone's gesturing. He's a 3-4-time Australian champion, and he's fought in world tournaments. And I'm like, all right, let's see, let's go. Let's have a shot here. Let's have a good crack. And long story short, we went we went all the way, and then you got me with 2 Gidan Mawashis with about 5 seconds to go. Beautiful timed, right on the back end of the mat. And I thought nothing of the first one, meaning I was okay. I think we'll draw this. And I kind of went, oh shit, I think we'll get over the line here. And then the second one, bang, right on the spot. And I think from then on, to be brutally honest with you, I lost that semi. I could have made we could have gone again, and that was a massive turning point for me. And you don't need to reveal your age at that time if you don't want to, but I think everyone should hear how old you were, because I was 26, 27 and ready to go, all cylinders. And you gave me that push. You beat me, and you ended up winning it. And I've got the photo up in the dojo. It was yourself, Vicious Phil Jacobson was second, and then myself was third. And I treasure that. I treasure that moment, Sensei, and I thank you for it. Deep down, I seriously do. And you're probably like, who's this kid? What's going on here? But you knew the pedigree that I was coming through, so it was a special moment.
Yeah, no, every tournament for me is special, and every fight is special. I pretty much remember all my fights. I get a little bit nostalgic about it, and just try and reflect a little bit. And I went through a phase there of writing down a bit of history about the national tournaments that I competed in.
Yep.
And I clocked up 52 fights over time.
Yeah.
And I remember all of them. Yeah, I remember especially the losses, but I remember the wins, and I remember what worked and what didn't. And the best thing about that is, is to keep evolving, to keep changing. Shihan Jimmy talks about that in his early days when he was winning nationals. And, he was the man to beat, and people thought that understood the way he was fighting, and he'd evolve, he'd change, and then they thought they'd understand him the following year, and he'd be doing something different again. And I took that on board, and I remember that fight with you very clearly. I remember thinking, why is he still going so strong? Why are you still punching so strong? And I remember reviewing the fight on video. One of my students' mum was there, and she filmed it.
Right.
And I analysed it, and I tried to.
Gotcha.
Because I was wrestling a bit with my age. I'd come out of retirement to fight then.
Yeah.
I'd retired in 2002.
Yeah.
And then I came out in 2004 to fight in the World Tournament in Japan.
Yes.
And then I retired again. And then I was getting down to Sydney, and I was training with the fighters squad.
Yeah.
Stefan Nansen and Erica and Brett and
Jason.
Quinn and
Jason.
Jason was in there a bit.
Okay. Yeah, cool.
And I remember going down there, and this is like 2007, and and everybody's falling over. Like I'm sparring, I'm thinking, maybe I've still got a bit more to offer here. Like these guys are all competing in nationals, and they're not really pushing me as hard as I thought they would.
Okay.
And so it didn't take too much motivation to have another crack.
Yeah.
I mean, to fight yourself, you were definitely you were the up and comer. Like you were the one to watch. And I felt like I got away with one there. I thought I might have got a little bit lucky. I backed myself. I knew it was my left leg low kick hitting your back leg, and
there you go.
You know the spot. It's a sweet spot. It's not easy to hit, but it doesn't take. It's hard to condition that part of your.
Correct. You just nailed it. It's hard to condition, and coming through then, that was Shihan Billy grabbed me and said, right, what are you going to do now? You're going to condition the shit out of that leg, and so on and so on. And it was all, though, in reflecting on that, but in sharing with others, exactly what you're saying. You're going to remember your losses, and you got to learn from them, and you've got to then be able to, we would shake hands at the end, show that spirit and show that respect, and all start to go, right, who's next? What do we do now? What can will I face Sensei Rosie again? Shit, I hope so. I owe him, and to be honest, we never did. We missed out on a couple of times because you were on your last couple of years, but you kept going a little bit more. But those lessons definitely, for those that are listening in Kyokushin, oh man, they're better than wins at times. Yeah.
I think back to the 80s when we're a little bit hardcore. I think back in New Zealand we didn't wear shin pads much, and there was a lot of Kyokushin shuffle going on. Like
look out.
It was just there was a lot of Kyokushin shuffle. But one of the things, as far as that low kick stopping you that particular time, all the technique that I've won with, a technique that have stopped me at some point.
Okay, yeah.
So all the low kicks, all the gut shots, the head kicks, it's normally in the dojo. They're shots that I've felt, and I know they work, and I want to be able to give that back. You learn through that pain. That works. I'll make that work on him.
That's a good point. The dojo is crucial for that, isn't it? We bust our asses off when it's time for Kumite, and we say, if you push hard here and you train like the way you're going to fight, the rest is done, isn't it? Like the Ali saying, the work's already done under the lights, elsewhere. This is it's time to go.
Yeah, very true.
Hey, Sensei, so you down in the Central Coast, and you weren't I guess, close enough to just continue your training. But then you went into that dojo operating style as well, and I'm tapping into that a little bit because there's a lot of instructors that need a bit of motivation or some form of tip or advice and things like that. And it's good to share, isn't it? And talk openly that running a Kyokushin dojo or any other martial art dojo is not easy, and your passion and your time and your commitment and sacrifice and family. But can you share with us a bit of that journey as well in where you were at that phase?
Yeah. So 2002, when I stopped competing, I had 2 children by that stage. I had my first son in 2000.
Right.
Second son born at the end of 2002. Wife and I moved up to the coast, built a house.
Awesome.
Started the family unit.
Yeah.
And then there's the dream of running a dojo as well. So we sort of jumped into that. And that was challenging. Yeah, really challenging. But I had had plenty of energy. Yeah, I was only sort of late 20s. What was I? Sorry, I was 30. Yeah, 31, 32.
Okay.
I had plenty of energy, plenty of mojo. Had the school running. I was doing my personal training studies. Yeah, I was personal training. I was working in a gym. Keeping fit.
What was some of the things that you took away from all that fight? Your fighting career, as successful as you were, and how did you transition it, and how did you involve your knowledge into teaching as such?
That was quite hard because I don't know if you've heard the saying, but the instructor doesn't choose the student chooses the instructor.
Boom.
And you've got no control over who walks into your dojo.
Right.
You're just thankful that people do walk in.
Oh.
I think on the Central Coast, nobody really knew much about Kyokushin. There was very little Kyokushin around. Shihan held Lippmann's in Taramara at the end of the freeway.
Right.
And then if you go up into Maitland, the Shihan Trevor Trainer and Sensei Daniel Langworthy. But and then I was sort of smack in the middle.
Right.
But I had a lot to share. Yeah, so I had a lot of passion.
Yeah.
I'd been a 7-year-old when I first walked into a dojo, and I was getting some kids coming in, and I had the enthusiasm to share with them. And it was definitely passion and love as far as teaching goes. But personally, my own karate, went through quite a change. A few years went by there where, apart from myself doing a little bit of kata, the highest kata I teach, pin ends on each.
Right.
Get through the pin ends, and you can only, your students sort of dictate the class to a point.
Sure.
Yeah, but that changed over time, and I'm just lucky with social media and the network of people that I've met over the years that I had a lot of ties, a lot of Kyokushin friends.
Yeah.
That wanted to train with me and wanted to come and train with me, and so even though it was a difficult time as far as a little bit of politics, I was still training with a lot of really good Kyokushin people that opened their arms to let me in the dojo.
Which leads me to, again, I brought this up and I bring it up as many times as I can. These chats are not to, go for the 3 hours. This is a nice 1 hour for people to appreciate and understand who the people are that I'm talking to, because I want to chat further down the track, and everyone kind of rehashes, I should have brought that up, and that's the cool bit. But let's spend about probably another 5-10 minutes on I mean, you've been very good with all your friendships and so forth, and the respect that you have with others, and you've trained in multiple camps and so forth. Share a bit of I guess some nuggets, as we call them, in who you loved and who gave you more of we were bringing that up with camps and seminars, and you just you're buzzing after them, aren't you? I mean, you and I would talk sometimes straight after and go, how good was that, and what did you do, what did you get out of it? Share with some of us about that. Cool.
I mean, there's a whole list of instructors that have inspired me. And one of the best things I started to do was started writing a journal at those camps to try and hold on to some of those nuggets of gold. But one of the really inspirational ones for me was Shihan Kenny Bogart.
Yeah, right.
So, yeah, he's one of the legends of Kyokushin from the second and third world tournament. And, you know, I couldn't believe I had the opportunity to train with him.
Really?
And when I did start training with him, I was just recovering from a bit of a groin injury. And so I was just sort of getting my core together again and starting to take a bit more notice of how to use my posture in my fighting and my stance. And Shihan Kenny, he flogged us. Like he really flogged the shit out of us for a couple of days. Just really good quality training. Yeah, and his movement was just sensational. Yeah, it really took me by surprise. You know, like you watch, you know, the likes of Nakamura and Senpai and Shihan Kenny and those guys from the second and third world tournament. It looked like just a slugfest. You know, it looked brutal, like a pub fight without face punches.
Yeah.
But the detail, you know, and the knowledge and the way they actually do what they do, the video doesn't do it justice.
Okay.
When you get to meet them at a seminar and they start to break things down, then you go, wow, that's really, really cool. You know, like that's really interesting. That makes a lot of sense. But one of the beautiful things about Kyokushin is what you learn in the dojo and what you do on the mat. You know, you really got to do a lot of work in the dojo to make that work on the mat. You know, there's, so yeah, we all understand about using our hips and pivoting on our feet and, you know, how to make a fist and how to throw a punch. But until it's put in the cauldron of a tournament, you really don't know that it works.
Yeah.
I mean, you know yourself. I mean, and I know myself. You know how good you can feel doing bag work. You know, and sparring.
The bag doesn't hit back. The bag doesn't hit back.
Yeah. And in the mirror, you know, oh wow, that back kick worked then. You know, and then you get on the mat and it's like four heads together, Starsky low kicks.
Yeah.
You remember those novice intermediate days?
Yeah.
But you know, somewhere along the line with the perseverance and the training, you know, you start fighting in national tournaments and you're doing those basics right. Yeah, that works. You know, those throwing that low kick 1,000 times with intent, hitting exactly the same spot on the bag. Yeah. And meaning it and not giving any details away, you know, no gives, no fakes or anything like that.
Right, yeah.
And then you take that to the mat and you use it. And yeah, that's the difference. You know, that's what's made you a national tournament fighter, not a state tournament fighter or a novice or an intermediate.
Yeah, no doubt.
So Shihan Kenny, he's got his finger on the pulse, you know, like he's the technical director at the time, and right. He's watching the Japanese closely, and he's sharing their stuff, and but he also had a really inspirational instructor in Len Barnes. He was a pioneer of South African Kyokushin, right, and he was a real innovator for you know, bringing boxing training into Kyokushin, and
wicked.
And just a lot of, you know, thinking outside of the square.
So,
you know, Shihan Trevor Tocker and Shihan Kenny, they're passionate Kyokushin men, and it was beautiful to train with them.
Who else have you been fortunate to tap into that?
Yeah, so I really enjoyed training with Sensei Gary. Yeah, at a couple of later camps. He was so generous. You know, just giving the details, just young enough to be demonstrating everything as he does. Yeah. I trained with Shihan Antonio Pinero.
Yes.
He was very interesting. Very interesting. He had a lot of technical sort of gems to share, just using traditional stances in ways that I hadn't thought of, and that was really good. I love my kata. I was a bit of a kata kid when I was sort of 13, 14, 15. And there was a Sensei Nagiyama. He was Goto Shihan, one of Goto Shihan's Uchideshi, and he moved to New Zealand, and he taught myself and a couple of other students kata, and that was I was really lucky to have that opportunity.
That's cool. That's cool.
I love my seminars. Yeah, Shihan Senpai, he came out in the 90s.
Oh yeah.
He was amazing. The thing that amazed me about him was he was only about 80 kilos when he fought, and all his fingers and toes were still straight, you know, and his body looked healthy, you know, like can't believe the way you fought. You know, the damage you took, but you still look healthy.
Yeah.
I fought in a couple of nationals, and I couldn't walk for a week, sort of thing. And
yeah, yeah. No, that's fair enough.
Good shuffle.
Hey, that's cool, Sensei. And I guess, and at the minute, you know, I mean, you know, we catch up. We gesture to each other that you know, when in Sydney, come, you know, let's do something, and when in Melbourne, let's come do something. And I'm sure we'll get to that, and we'll tap into it as well with a couple of other senseis we're talking to. But what's one thing I like ending, I guess, the conversation to an extent is the passion. I mean, you've been doing this now for, you know, a long time in respect of, you know, the journey and the journey of, and for others to appreciate and understand, you know, what makes you keep going? What is it? What is the fire? And whether it's continue to run a dojo or whatever it means it is, you're still, you know, so passionate about the arts and again, Kyokushin, martial art, whatever language it is.
Yeah, it's the people. I think, you know, the people keep inspiring me and motivating me.
Yeah.
There's so many great karate people that have been before us, martial artists.
Yeah.
And they're all so inspiring. You know, the stories. I love reading some of the books that Kyokushin legends have written.
Yeah.
Ninomiya has written a great book, The Sabaki Way, and Kurosaki Killed the Cat. A book that John Jarvis wrote. That's a really cool book. The Bouncer by Shigeru Oyama. You've got to read that.
Yeah.
And their stories, you know, the adversity they face, the successes, you know, Sosai's book, The Kyokushin Way. There's so many inspirational people out there, you know, that have shared their stories, and they give you just, you know, more clues on how to live your life and how to enjoy your training and keep setting new goals for yourself.
That's it. So that's cool. That's a cool way of you know, putting it to a bit of an end there, Sensei. And I appreciate that because books are something. You know, what's going on? You know, some are buying. You know, where can you buy them these days? But I brought that up the other night with Shihan Bill. This is Karate and those special books as well. You know, I was even, you know, we'll have a chat. I'm going to have a chat with Shihan Jadreed soon as well, and hopefully,
his book is great.
Hopefully, Sensei Nicholas Pettis as well. I've got some names that I'm trying to keep the hunt on, but they put the last couple of books out in the last 5 years, and you know, that's awesome to read, isn't it? You know, just and understand their journey.
Yeah, I enjoyed Nicholas Pettis and Shihan Judd's books because I was in Japan just a year or two before them, and a lot of the names that they talk about were guys that I remember, and all those fighters from that time. There's a snapshot in time that was really exciting. They were part of a special time with Sosai still alive, and
well, Sensei Rosie, thank you so much for chatting with us. It was awesome. It always is, you know, fascinating chatting and hearing your journey thus far. You're still holding that fourth Dan deep down. You kind of gestured. You're not far off that Shihan title, which is, you know, not far away. So we wish you all the best on that next little chapter. Hopefully, it's you know, a whisker away, as you gestured earlier. I guess you know, is your dojo still? I think you were just taking a bit of time off on that side, but I was more so trying to get people to, you know, understand where to find you, ask questions, because you are always giving it, you know, with people and your time. But you're a bit of a hermit with no Facebook as such, but you do have the Facebook. That's how we chat. But you know, you can find Sensei Graeme Rose on Facebook. But if anyone can't, just hit me up, and I'm sure I'll inundate his you know, message box. But what a knowledgeable man, and pleasure to call you a friend and Sensei, and all the best with what's going on.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you very much, Pat. I really appreciate the opportunity, and you're doing great stuff. This is a great idea. You're one of the future leaders of Kyokushin, no doubt.
Oh, so I appreciate it immensely. All the best. Thank you so much, Sensei Graeme Rose. Have a good evening, and take care of Central Coast for us. And I'm sure I'll be in touch, and we'll, you know, the dojo's always open to anyone that knows Sensei Graeme Rose to come down to Nunawading, and yourself. But all the best. Thanks so much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Pat. See ya.
Us.